5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Hey guys, welcome to MB Tech Talker. My name's Matt. In this video I'm going to show you how to configure VMware Workstation to successfully deploy a Palo Alto next generation firewall. I will provide a step-by-step demonstration on how to configure the interfaces, static routing, security zones, security policies and NAT to allow your client PC to access the internet, allowing you to take advantage of the Palo Alto next generation security features. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified every time I post a new video. Okay, so I created this diagram to show you how the Palo Alto firewall will be deployed. All components within the green hatch lines are virtual devices and only exist inside a VMware Workstation. The router, switch and management PC are all physical devices and have access out to the internet via my home router using 192.168.21.254, which is the default gateway. The Palo Alto firewall will have a total of 4 interfaces: an outside, inside, DMZ and management. The ETH1/1 outside zone interface and management interface will be on the same subnet as my home network and will be bridged using the physical interface on the VMware Workstation host. The management interface will be used to access the firewall's web UI and CLI. This interface is not used for normal data traffic, it's solely used for management purposes. The ETH1/2 inside zone interface is where a Linux client VM will reside. In this video I will show you how to create this client VM from scratch using a lightweight Linux OS called TinyCore and install the necessary desktop apps that can be used to generate traffic and test connectivity through the Palo Alto firewall out to the internet. And finally, the ETH1/3 DMZ zone interface is where a Kali Linux client VM will be connected in order to test connectivity across zones, and you will be able to use Kali Linux to invoke cyber attacks on demand, allowing you to use the PAN next generation firewall features to detect and block them. Okay, so we're going to move into the lab now. First thing you need to do is head over to vmware.com and download the VMware Workstation software. And also you need to go to the Palo customer support portal and download the OVA. I'll put the links in the description, and once you've downloaded those files, we can crack on with the VMware Workstation installation. Okay, so now that VMware Workstation has successfully installed, we can move on to importing the Palo Alto OVA file. So you do that by clicking File, Open, select the OVA file and then click Open. You can leave the name of the virtual machine at the default and then just click Import, and we'll just wait for that to import into VMware Workstation. So that's the Palo Alto VM successfully created. We can now go in and edit the virtual machine settings by clicking here. And as you can see, we've got some predefined configuration. The VM comes configured with 2 network adapters. The first one is the management interface and the second one is a data interface. So you can add up to 9 interfaces. What we're going to do is add 2 more so it matches our lab diagram. So let's just click on Add, Network Adapter, Finish, and then we can do it again. Add Network Adapter and Finish. That's giving us a total of 4 interfaces. So Management, Outside, Inside, and DMZ. So at this stage we can now configure the actual workstation network. So you need to go into Virtual Network Editor and you right click and you need to Run as Administrator. As you can see, you've got some default configuration here. What we're going to do is remove VMnet 1 and VMnet 8. That leaves VMnet 0. This is the physical bridged interface on the VMware Workstation host. So my PC's physical network is connected to VMnet 0. So what we're going to do is add another network, and I'm going to match them to our Palo VM. So VMnet 3, okay. And then in VMnet 3, we're going to change the subnet IP to 10.3.3.0, and we're going to disable DHCP and apply. And we're going to create another additional network. I'm going to call that 4. Okay, and do the same again, but changing the subnet IP. So let's change this to 172.16.4.0 and remove or disable DHCP and apply. So that now gives us the two subnets that we're going to be using, the inside and the DMZ, and as I said, this will be using my home network for the outside and for the management. So if we click OK, we can now map this accordingly. So if you go into here, and we can now, if you highlight the network adapter 3 and click custom, we can now select VMnet 3, and we can do the same for 4, custom VMnet 4. Okay. So what we need to do now, we need to make sure these additional interfaces that we've added are the same virtual device type as the ones that were already created by importing the OVA file in. So to do that, we need to browse to the virtual machine folder. So mine is stored in Documents, Virtual Machines, and here is the Palo virtual machine folder, and you're looking for the .vmx file. I'm going to open and edit with Notepad++. You can use a text editor if you haven't got that, but it's free to download. And what we need to do, we need to make sure that our interfaces, new interfaces, match the ones that which were already created. So you can see here, this is Ethernet 0, so this is effectively the first and second interface is created. The virtual device is set to VMX net 3, and that's what we need to make sure the other NICs are set to. So I'm just going to copy that, and we're going to go look for interfaces 2 and 3 because they're sequential, and as you can see, it's actually set to E1000, which is wrong. So we need to replace that one, and we also need to replace that one. If we don't do this, the VM won't boot. So that's now been corrected, and you just need to make sure that you save the file and close the window. Close the window. Now we can start the VM. So that is now the virtual machine configured, and this will just boot up, and we will move on to the next part of the lab. Okay, so the Palo Alto has successfully booted up now. We're going to log into the firewall and verify the management IP address. So we can use the default credentials, which is admin, and then we're going to issue the show system info command. And as you can see, there's an IP address been assigned by DHCP, and the default gateway has been set, which is my home router. But I want to change this address to be a static IP so it matches the lab diagram, and it doesn't change when I reboot the firewall. So we're going to go into configure mode, and then we're going to do set device config system type static. So this changes from DHCP to a static assignment. Hit return, and then we're going to do set device system IP address 192.168.21.21 net mask 255.255.255.0, and then default gateway is my home router 192.168.21.254. DNS settings is DNS settings servers primary, and then just going to use Google, and then hit return, and then we're going to commit the changes to the firewall, so using the commit command. We wait for that to save the config, and then once it's saved, we're going to exit configuration mode, and then we're going to issue the show system info command again, and as you can see, we have now got a static IP set to 192.168.21.21. So now we can verify that we've got web UI access. So we're going to open up a browser, and we're going to go to http ps 192.168.21.21 and advance, proceed, and there you go, we've got web UI access, default credentials, and then log in and click OK there, and we should be seeing a baseline configuration. So just close that window, and then you can verify that the networks are all there but not configured. So we're going to move on to the next part of the lab, which is going to be to set up a VM client and to configure the interfaces on the Palo Alto so that we can start testing connectivity. The next thing we need to do is get the Linux client virtual machine up and running. I use a lightweight operating system called TinyCore Linux. So if you head over to their website at tinycorelinux.net and go to the download section and look for the Core Plus ISO file and download that to your desktop or to your downloads folder. And then once that's done, you can then go back into VMware Workstation and start configuring the virtual machine. So go to File, New Virtual Machine, and click Custom, and then Next, Next again, and choose I will install the operating system later. Click Next, choose Linux and other Linux 5.x or later, and then click Next. Give the virtual machine a name, so TinyCore Linux, and then click Next. Leave the processors default, allocate 1 gig to the memory, use bridge networking. This will connect the virtual machine to the home network, and you should get an IP address off your router or DHCP server. Click Next, keep that at default, select SATA for the disk type, and then create a new virtual disk. Next, I normally change this to 16 gig, and I store the virtual disk as a single file. Leave that as default, and then go into customize hardware. Remove any unnecessary virtual hardware, so I remove the USB controller, the sound card, and the printer. And then what we need to do is highlight the CD DVD and then use ISO image file, and then browse to the ISO file you downloaded earlier. Click open, and then close this window and finish. We should be then in a position to power on the virtual machine. So click on the screen and hit return on the first option. This doesn't take too long to boot up and should present us with a Tiny Core desktop. Okay, so we're at the desktop now. It's a little bit difficult to navigate the Tiny Core desktop without VM tools installed. So what I tend to do is put the mouse cursor in the left hand corner of the screen and then right click your mouse and then use your cursor key to go to applications and then TC install and then press return. When you're on here, just use your tab key to go to the whole disk and then use your spacebar to select it, and then use your tab twice and use your down arrow and then up arrow to select the SDA. Use your tab to go down to the forward arrow and press spacebar. Spacebar again on ext4 and again and again, and then use the tab to go to the proceed and then spacebar. This will partition and format the virtual hard drive and finish the core installation. And then once that's done, if you hit escape, and that will close that window. And what we're going to do now is just again put your cursor in the left hand corner, right click, and then we're going to go to exit, and then we're going to reboot. So then we're just going to give it a quick reboot to make sure that it's installed the operating system correctly, and then we can then install VMware tools. So again, I know this is a little bit difficult, but we need to get the mouse into that left hand corner, right click, and then this time we're going to go to System Tools, Exit, and then we're going to choose Exit to Prompt using the cursor and then spacebar, then use the tab to go to OK and then hit the Enter key. Now we can install VM tools. First of all, I'm just going to check that we've got an IP address, so ifconfig. So we've got an IP address. Can we ping the gateway 192.168.21.254? Yes, we can. So we can ping the router. Can we ping the internet? So ping google.co.uk. Yep, so we've got internet access. So we've got connectivity to the home network and we obtain an IP address, so which is a good start. So now we can get VM tools installed. So we're going to use the TCE load -wi switch, and then we're going to do open VM tools desktop, and then we're going to hit return. Now this takes a little while to install, so I'm just going to let it run and I'll get back to you when it's complete. Okay, so that's VM tools installed. So I'm going to give that a reboot again, and then hopefully when the desktop comes back, it's going to be a lot more usable. Okay, so that looks good. What we're going to do now is configure the wallpaper to fit properly, so it makes it look a little bit better. As you can see now, the mouse is working properly, and it's much easier to navigate the mouse and select the applications and software. So what we're going to do again is go to System Tools, and we're going to go to Exit, and we're going to go Exit to Prompt, and then we're going to press OK, and we'll go back to the command prompt this time, and we're going to install the rest of the software. So we're going to use the same command again, which is tce load, and then we're going to use the -wi switch, and then we're going to install nano, bash, LX terminal, LeafPad, which is like text editor, Firefox, VLC, and LibreOffice. So we get those downloaded, and we'll give the VM another reboot, and fingers crossed that should be all we need. I may install just one more application as a bonus application at the end. Let's see how we get on with this. Okay, so we're back at the desktop. Let's have a look to see if all the applications have installed. Firefox, LeafPad, LibreOffice, LX Terminal, and VLC Player have all been installed. I did mention that I'm going to install one more application. So I'm going to use the new LX Terminal, and I'm going to use the same command as I used earlier, which is the tce load. And we're going to download a file manager to make it easier to browse files on the TinyCore virtual machine. And we're going to use the -wi switch, and we're going to install PAN-NGFW. So it's going to go and download that. It take hardly any time at all, and hopefully within a few seconds we should have that application installed. Okay, so we should now see in our application list File Manager. So this gives us a way to browse files. So that's it. That's all the applications installed. So we're now ready for this virtual machine to be connected to the Palo Alto and do some testing. Okay, so we're back over at VMware Workstation. We need to make a quick change to the TinyCore client. So if you highlight the TinyCore VM and then edit virtual machines, we need to be looking at the network adapter. And as you can see, it's still set to bridged. This is when we set it up to access the internet via my home router. What we need to do is change that to the inside network of the Palo Alto. So we need to choose VMnet 3. This will put it on the 10.3.3.0/24 network. And I just click OK. We can now boot up the virtual machine. And then while that's booting up, we're going to head over to the Palo Alto. Let's log in with the default admin. And then we're going to check that the IP address of the manager interface is what we expect it to be. So show system info, and it is 192.168.21.21, and the default gateway is 21.254. So if we can now go over and open up a browser and browse to the web UI. So https 192.168.21.21, and then we can click advanced and then proceed, and then just log in again with the admin credentials and then hit return. Okay, so now we're ready to do some basic configuration. First of all, we're going to set the date and time. So we're going to go to the device tab, and we're going to go to management tab, and then click the gear icon. And here we're going to set it to our time zone. So mine is Europe, London. And I'm just going to give it a quick, so we can just put this as PA-VM, just default, and then click OK. And then we're going to go to services and then open up the window using the gear icon, and then go to the NTP tab. And I'm going to set mine to a UK server, which is pool.uk.ntp.org, and then OK. Now we can commit that so that the time and date's correct, and then we can move on to the network configuration. Close that. We can just verify on the dashboard that the NTP has restarted and synchronized, and we've got the current date and time, which is good. Right, onto the network tab, and the first thing we're going to do is configure some zones. So click on zones, and then we're going to add outside zone, and we're going to set that to layer 3 type zone, and then click OK. We're going to add an inside zone, layer 3 type, OK, and then we're going to add a DMZ zone, layer 3, OK. And now we're going to configure a virtual router, and then we're going to add one, and we call it VR1, and then OK. And then we're going to create 2 management profiles so that we can manage the interfaces and ping the interfaces that we choose. So click on interface management, then add. And this one I'm just going to call ping management, and then just tick the ping network service, and then OK. And then add a secondary one. This one is going to be web UI SSH ping, and just call it management on the end. So then we can choose the HTTPS SSH and ping service. Click OK. So now we need to go to the interfaces, and we can tie all this configuration together. So the first one is Ethernet 1/1. This is going to be the outside interface. So we're going to choose a layer 3 interface type. Virtual router is going to be VR1, and security zone is going to be outside. IPv4 is where we assign the IP address. So we're going to go on this is going to be my outside home network. So 192.168.21.250/24, and then click on advanced, and then we can then assign the management profile, and we're just going to have ping on the outside. We're not going to be able to manage it from the outside. And then click OK. Go into Ethernet 1/2, so interface type layer 3, virtual router is VR1, security zone is inside. Onto the IPv4 tab, click add, and this is going to be the 10.3.3 network. And then click on the advanced tab, and we'll go to the management profile, and this time we're going to select the web UI SSH ping management profile, so we can manage from the inside. So we're going to use the Linux client to be able to manage the firewall that attests connectivity to the virtual machine. And then click OK there, and then Ethernet 1/3, Again, layer 3, virtual router VR1, security zone DMZ. IPv4 is going to be the 172.16.4.254/24 network. And then onto advanced again, and again we're just going to use the ping management profile so we can test connectivity from a virtual machine, and then click OK. So let's just recap on here. So we've got Ethernet 1/1, which is the in the outside security zone, connected to VR1, virtual route 1, and is using the home network 192.168.21.250. Ethernet 1/2 is the inside network, so inside security zone, and is using the 10.3.3.254 address. Ethernet 1/3 is in DMZ security zone and is using 172.16.4.254. And we've got two management profiles. The least trusted interfaces, we've just got ping management, and then the most trusted, we've got full web access, web UI, and SSH access. So that's good at that point. So we can commit that, and then we can move on to the security policies. Okay, so the configuration has been pushed to the firewall, and you can see that the three interfaces have come up as the link state has turned green. So the next thing we need to do is configure some security policies. So head to the policies tab. There's two default security policies already created out the box. We're going to add our own. So first policy is going to be inside to outside, and then we're going to select inside as the source zone and outside as the destination zone. This will all be default. So application any, service application default, and log at session. This creates logs in the monitor tab. And then we need to do another one from outside to inside. Source, outside zone, destination, inside zone. Again, application any, service is application default, and then action is allow, and then log session end. And then the third policy is going to be from inside to DMZ. So source inside, destination DMZ, and again application any, service application default, and allow and log session at the end. And then we're going to do one more, which is going to be from outside to DMZ. So outside to DMZ, source at outside DMZ, and then just the default settings again all the way through. So this is a very permissive set of policies. These can be changed, but at the moment, just to get traffic through the firewall and just to demonstrate how this works, we're just going to leave it as it is. Next thing we need to do is a NAT policy. Now, if we go back to the network tab, we know that the Ethernet 1/1 is our outside interface, and this IP address is on our home network. So the 192.168.21.250 is something that our home network knows about. So when we do the NAT policy, this is going to be a key IP address. So if we go to policies, NAT, and we're going to create a new policy here, and we're just going to call this outbound NAT. And what we're going to do here is we're going to source from the inside and the DMZ, and we're going to be destined to the outside network, which is the home network, and the interface is Ethernet 1/1, and leave the service at any, and then we can leave this at any, and then we go to the translated packet tab, and then we're going to select the source address translation here, and we're going to do dynamic IP import, and then address type we're going to use interface address. We're going to select Ethernet 1/1, and then we're going to choose the IP address of the outside interface. So it's called outbound NAT, and it's sourcing from our DMZ and inside interfaces, and it's destined to the outside zone, which is the Ethernet 1/1 interface. It's sourcing from any source address to any destination address from any service using any service, and we're going to translate it to the Ethernet 1 outside interface. So we're going to commit that, and we're going to wait for that to push to the firewall, and then we're going to do some testing. Okay, so we're back at VMware Workstation. We're at the Tiny Core desktop. What we need to do now is configure an IP address so that the Linux machine can communicate with the Palo Alto's inside interface. So what you do at the desktop is right click and go to System Tools and Control Panel, and then go to Network, and we're going to set the IP address as 10.3.3.10. It will populate the rest of the fields. Make sure your name server or your DNS server is set to Google's 8.8.8, and then click apply, and then exit the control panel. Open a terminal so we can get to the command line, and then we're just going to verify the IP address, and that's 10.3.3.10, and then we're going to ping the Palo Alto's interface, so ping 10.3.3.254. Okay, that looks good. So we should be able to open up a web browser now and browse to the web UI. So let's open up Firefox, and from here we're going to do HTTPS 10.3.3.254, and then we're going to log in with admin. Don't save that. Click OK. And as you can see, we've got web UI access, and there's the dashboard. So that looks good. So next test is to see if we can get out to the internet. We're just going to open another tab, and then we're just going to go to www.google.co.uk. Okay, I know this is going to fail, and the reason is we don't have a default route set on the Palo Alto. So what we need to do is just close that tab, and we're going to go into Network tab again, and then we're going to go to Virtual Routers, and then we're going to go into the VR1 router that we created. And then we're going to go to static routes, and then we're going to add, and we're just going to call this default route, and the destination network is 0.0.0/0, so that's the default, that's everything. And then we're going to do interface Ethernet 1/1, and then we're going to do the next hop IP address as my home router, which is 192.168.21.254. So yeah, so that's the default route to any destination. Go to the Palo's outside interface and use the IP address as the default gateway, which is the home router 192.168.21.254, and then click OK, and then OK on that, and then we need to commit the change, and then commit. So once that's committed, we will open a tab again, and we will test the internet connection again. So close, open the tab, and let's go to www.google.co.uk. and there we go, we have access to the internet. So that looks good. So we've got full connectivity through the Palo Alto. We've got a Linux client connected directly to the inside interface. So we're currently connected to this security zone inside, and we are going out to the internet via the outside address. And the only real next thing we need to do is test that we've got access to the DMZ, but as it stands we don't have a client configured yet. So that's the next bit I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in another client and attach it to the DMZ interface. Okay, so we're back at VMware Workstation. I've just imported a Kali Linux client that I created prior to making the videos, just to make things a little bit quicker. So ultimately what I've done is copied the Kali client folder back into the virtual machines folder, and then just gone to file and open, and then browse to the Kali Linux client.vmx file, and then just opened it, and that just imported the VM into VMware Workstation. So all we need to confirm is just by highlighting Kali Linux and going to the settings, and we need to just confirm that the VM is set to the VMNet 4, which it is, and that is the DMZ zone on the Palo Alto. So that's put it on the 172.16.4.0/24 network. So we can just test connectivity from the Kali Linux command line. So let's do ping 172.16.4.254. That's good. And if we went to the tiny core and opened up a terminal, we can test connectivity from the inside to the DMZ zone. So let's do ping 172.16.4.10. So that's good, but because the security policy doesn't allow you, if you did ping 10.3.3.10, the policy doesn't allow you to go the other way. So it doesn't allow you to go from DMZ to inside, but it allows you to go from inside to DMZ. Another thing that the Kali Linux won't be able to do is get out to the internet. So if I ping www.google.com, we'll have no access. One, there's no policy rule, and two, there is no NAT policy. I'm going to leave that for you guys to do so that you can get that working. The clue is that you just use the policies in place and just create the same rules, same NAT policy, or adding the zone into the same NAT policy to allow that Kali Linux DMZ machine to get out to the internet. But there is one more thing that we need to do, and that is to allow the home network to be able to access both of the virtual machines, because the home network does not know how to get to 10.3.3.0/24 network and the 172.16.4.0/24 network. You're going to need to tell your home router how to do that. Now, inside your router, you should be looking for some configuration called routing or static routing, and you need to put in there a route or a static route saying, to get to to get to the 10.3.3.0 network and the 172.16.4 network, go to the Palo Alto's outside interface. Now I can show you how to do that. So I'm just going to browse quickly to my my router. I'm going to log in, and then we're going to go to routing, and then static route, and then you would do 10.3.3.0, 255.255.255.0, pointing to the IP address of the Palo Alto's outside interface. So in this case it's 21.250. I'm just going to enable that, then OK, and then for the 172.16.4.0/24 network, again need to point it to the IP address of the outside of the Palo, enable it, and then OK, and that should be all we need, and then we can verify that. So I'm going to open up a command prompt and ipconfig this machine, and you can see that I'm on 192.168.21.59. so the PC with VMware Workstation configured is using that physical IP address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ping the TinyCore Linux client and also the Kali Linux client. So first of all, ping 10.3.3.10, and there you go. I've got connectivity from my home network to the TinyCore. And now we try the DMZ client, so the Kali client. So ping 172.16.4.10, and we've got access to that as well. So that is giving us a Palo Alto lab using VMware Workstation. Just to make you aware that I've got no licenses installed on here, so I'm not able to show you any monitoring, but this is something I can do in another video. I know that traffic is passing through the firewall because of the connectivity testing we've done, but inside your policy rules you can see hit counts, and you can see what traffic is going through which policy, and also you can do the same in the NAT, and you can see that you've got a hit count here, and it will be incrementing as you send traffic through the firewall. So that's the end of this video, the end of the lab. I hope you found this interesting. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the comments below and I will get back to you. Let me know how you got on. Let me know if there's anything that I could have improved on, or if there's anything I've missed. Then just pop it all in the comments below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Over the next coming weeks I will be uploading more videos where I will be sharing more content about Palo Alto firewall features and technologies and how to configure them. If you like this video, I'm sure you know what to do by now, but just in case you don't, please hit that like button below and share with your friends, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to get notified every single time I post a new video. If you have any ideas of video content you want me to create, please put them in the comments below, as I would love to hear your feedback on any aspect of my channel. Please keep watching and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.